Hello everyone, I'm the Shades and welcome again to Shades' Soapbox. God damn it, I knew this was bound to happen eventually. I was hoping beyond hope we could go just a little longer without this. Regardless, it seems that the indie VTuber scene has begun to show signs of toxicity creeping its way in, with a recent bit of controversy that has popped up over the last week or so. But here's the worst thing about all of this. This isn't really VTuber drama going on here. No, this is drama from another community altogether. It just so happens that those involved in the midst of this drama unfolding became VTubers along the way. So now our community has been dragged into something they honestly shouldn't have been. Look, you guys know I hate talking drama, and this isn't going to be a regular occurrence, but I have reasons to talk about this, as people I know are getting involved. Not just people I've heard of or seen before, but people I've actually worked with, and who I still consider a friend, even if on a very small level. One thing I've always made clear to you guys is that if you're part of RVT in any capacity, even if it's just as a fan, you're family. And when a member of our family is hurt, you bet your ass I'm going to be coming to show my support for them. Also, while I did my own research to gather the material for this video, I have to give credit to VTuber False ID and his series Things VTubers Say for condensing this down and covering a lot of what has happened thus far. Give his channel a look sometime if you want the latest in VTuber community news, as he and his co-host Lady do some great work. Now, before we dive into this, I want to make one thing explicitly clear. Do not, under any circumstance, go after anyone mentioned in this video. I do not condone harassment of any kind, no matter how shitty a person looks. I am a firm believer in karma, and what one person does will come back around on them eventually. So it's better to just let karma do its thing. If I hear of anyone in my community harassing or worse, sending threats of any kind to anyone involved, I will disavow them completely and outright ban them from my community. This is simply me outlining the situation and giving my thoughts on it, and that's how it should stay. Period. Allow me to explain. This all centers around cosplayer Bunny Ayumi and her accusations made against her. Funnily enough, this all started as the fall of another bit of controversy when VTuber Sarué was called out for an art contest she ran where one artist was disqualified for tracing, except the artist claimed she never traced at all. But as that neared a resolution, another VTuber named Lena Lazar had hinted at her own story. And before long, she finally spoke up. See, before becoming a VTuber, Lena was actually known for making custom figurines, and had just finished making one of cosplayer Swimsuit Succubus, or Susu, who was dating Bunny at the time. Bunny had then asked Lena if she could make one for her as well, which Lena agreed to do, even making a contract so the figures could be sold. But according to Lena's accusation, it seems Bunny was constantly wishy-washy on the designs, and when Bunny, as per the deal, would promote the upcoming figure, would tweet about it, and yet said tweets were shortly after deleted, on top of not finishing the costume she was making to match the figure. From there, Lena claims Bunny basically ghosted her, making it impossible for Lena to finish things up. Seeing no other choice, Lena decided to call it and cancel the figure altogether. Now, here's where it gets bad. See, according to the contract, Lena had to take responsibility for the refunds on pre-orders made, which added up to over $20,000 in debt for the poor girl, on top of paying for the production that had already been made. And since the figure wasn't going to be sold, she's never going to be able to recoup those losses. She's actually still trying to pay off that debt to this day, I might add. And Bunny actually got to keep the over $2,000 that was paid to her to help with the pre-orders, just to really twist the knife. But from there, it gets worse. Bunny apparently then went and started bad-mouthing Lena to anyone who would listen. Something we would soon learn as a common practice whenever Bunny didn't like someone. And given Bunny is actually a rather popular cosplayer, she actually had a bit of clout to do this kind of thing. All of this left poor Lena devastated. Not long after this, Bunny would debut her new VTuber form, Bunny GIF, and after laying low for a bit to kind of let things cool off, Lena would do the same, as did Susu. But it seems Bunny just couldn't leave well enough alone, now could she? Since Bunny had endeared herself to a large portion of the VTuber community, including working with the girls over at VShojo, which I've hinted at in the past, and who likely had no idea any of this was going on, she once again had the clout to get people to listen, and spread more comments and rumors about Lena to a large VTuber group she was a part of. In fact, every time Lena even attempted to collaborate with someone or make new friends, here comes Bunny to spread her rumors about Lena, and sure enough, they'd stop even talking to the girl and would start working with Bunny instead. And it wasn't just Lena either. Remember when I said Susu was dating Bunny when this began? Well, eventually they broke up, and Susu, who also debuted a VTuber form Draculita, was feeling this same wrath, basically being shoved out of the community simply because Bunny was more popular and she told everyone not to work with her ex. Soon after, another name gets added to all this mess, AdmiralBahroo, who apparently has become close friends with Bunny over time. Seems he began helping Bunny to spread this drama, DMing others, including close friends of Lena, and claiming she was a pathological liar, and as bad as controversial D&D Dungeon Master Arcadum. Though, given we would later learn of his own erratic behavior, this no longer comes as a surprise. Now, had it just been between Lena and Bunny, I'd have left it well enough alone since it's obviously not my business. But others have begun to come forward with similar stories as Lena's, and this is where we get to that someone I mentioned at the beginning, who I still consider a friend. Vixen Shelby. See, for those who don't recall, Shelby had actually joined us for our tabletop games for a brief while over in RVT. Granted, we found out later that the reason she was brought on contained some ulterior motives, which we won't be getting into here. To be fair, it's mainly because Shelby is an NSFW cosplayer, so I'm sure you can imagine a bit of it already yourself. It's irrelevant here, but some of us still do keep up with Shelby to this day, and she's always fun to hang out with. And her cosplays are amazing. Seriously, only someone like Shelby could make one of the Kanker sisters from Ed and Eddie look sexy, and if you know me, that's saying a lot. When we first started to get to know Shelby, she was already collabing with both Bunny and Susu, but not long after she left the TRPG games, those collabs stopped. Well, turns out there was a reason for that. Just a couple of days after Lena's story dropped, Shelby added her story to the mix as well. Shelby had planned to move to Texas to be closer to her friends, mainly at Bunny's insistence. But when Shelby and her partner visited prior to the move, things went south fast. Bunny apparently was obsessed with rivals like Jenna Miauri, another cosplayer, practically stalking them online whenever she could. She also acted very inappropriately to Shelby's partner, laying on his lap and commenting on his anatomy when he had just met them. Not to mention Bunny was feeling Shelby up left and right. Ugh. And while Bunny and Susu were dating at this time, Bunny was bad-mouthing Sue all over the place, not wanting her to talk to guys because Sue hates men, when that really wasn't entirely true. She was just more attracted to girls. And wouldn't invite Sue along because she'd bring the mood down, or that she was trying to sabotage Bunny and would be overdramatic and needy. Yeah, great way to talk about your own girlfriend! Seriously, I may crack jokes about Lady K from time to time, but ask anyone, I would never talk about her that way, and have always considered Lady K the best thing that ever came into my life. Eventually, this, along with other events, led to a confrontation between Shelby and Bunny, and Shelby and her brother, who also stayed to help with a photo shoot that honestly never happened, getting the hell out of Dodge. Of course, much like Lena, this is when Bunny started talking smack about Shelby to anyone and everyone. Hell, Shelby soon realized that Bunny was basically trying to groom her, telling her to do what Jenna does to one-up her, and would compare Shelby to Jenna constantly. There's apparently a lot more that's happened between those two, but already this is more than enough to convince me that this shit went way wrong. Just between these two, you can already see a consistency in their stories, which often tells me there's some truth to all this. But there are others, as those like Cinecent and URocket sharing similar stories as well, and other streamers like Strippin and Eric's Bowl speaking up against Bahroo, all also providing receipts showing him and Bunny seem to be two peas in a pod. But of course, it would be rude of me not to at least share Bunny's side in all this. Bunny did make a post as a rebuttal to Lena's story originally, attempting to debunk these accusations. Except, it's not really her own words, as Jenna, who seems to be a common name in all of this, showed that Bunny's PR team was in her own dock editing the post, cleaning it up to make it as safe as possible so she wouldn't out herself even more. She then put out a second post apologizing for her actions and wanting to settle the matter for good. But then she pulled a full 180 and put out a third document attempting to debunk many of the claims made by everyone. But even that was met with issues. Seriously, girl? Given the severity, you didn't think to triple check to make sure you didn't leave a fucking placeholder in there? To me, this is a red flag, one I've seen before. She tried to apologize, but when people no longer wanted it to be private and more accusations popped up instead, she went, fuck this, and just doubled down. This usually tells me that she has no intention of holding herself accountable. She simply wanted to address the complaints in private so she could say whatever she had to that they would forgive her, and then she could just move on to do it all over again. Look, I get it. It's often best to try to deal with matters privately. Hell, I try to do that all the time myself. But once that shit's out in the open, you gotta deal with it. RVT has had many issues in the past, and I've held myself accountable for everything that happened. There's a reason we don't have a website anymore, and a lot of that is bad management on my own part. I've learned from that, but I know some haven't forgiven me, and I accept that. Point being, once that shit's out in the open, You either own the L or you prepare for a long battle, since people aren't gonna let up so easily once you start. Expect your reputation to take a hit if you plan to fight back. I'm just saying. Hell, Bunny knew all this was about to blow up, since just as the Saraway story was nearing its end, Bunny made a tweet saying she'd be willing to talk with anyone she may have wronged in the past. Basically, she was saying, I know I'm about to get called out here, so let me see if I can nip it in the bud so as not to have my reputation damaged. But once the accusations started coming out of the woodwork, her and Bahroo went on the defense, trying to report Jenna's post calling out Bunny's doc being edited, and even threatening cease and desist notices to people who wanted answers. To his credit, Bahroo has admitted to being a bit of an ass over the years and claims to be taking time off to reflect. We'll have to wait and see if that leads to anything, but as many have rightfully pointed out, both he and Bunny are going to have to really work to prove that they've learned from all this. This is not something that a simple sorry is gonna fix anymore. Like, I know I quote or reference Mildred the Monk a lot on these videos, but he really does say it best here. Don't just be sorry, be better. Because right now, as one of his other favorite lines puts it, it feels more like you're not sorry for what you did, you're sorry you got caught. So yeah, at this point, Bunny's reputation is shot to hell and back. While she still has a strong fan base who still support her, her reputation is all but tainted. As for where I stand, I got my girl Shelby's back in all this. I know Shelby at least well enough to know that this girl is as sincere and genuine as they get. And I know she wouldn't say something like this just for clout. She was hurt, as were those like Lena and Jenna, among so many others. And spare a thought for poor Susu here, who had dated Bunny and yet seems to have faced the worst of it while she was dating her, not to mention after they broke up. I'm not exactly a fan of either of them, but I'm not gonna look at all this and not have some sympathy for Sue for putting up with all of that bullshit. Not to mention all the stuff she's likely yet to reveal. Who knows how much worse it actually was. So, as I'm sure you can assume, Bunny is not getting a VTuber's Guide spotlight at this point. Admittedly, I had considered it one time, but after all this, I do not want the guide to be tainted like this. I might give it to Susu or Elena instead, since they deserve all the love right now. But that's something I'm gonna have to look into first, so don't hold me to that. But for now, I will link you to all of those mentioned here, minus Bunny and Bahroo, obviously. I encourage you to check out all of their content, both as VTubers and as cosplayers, though make sure you're 18 plus, as most of these girls do post NSFW cosplay content. And again, do not harass Bunny, regardless of how shitty she looks through all this. Let karma take care of it, as her losing reputation is punishment enough. I honestly hope she learns from all this by the end and can become a better person, but based on how things are looking right now, I'm not holding my breath on that happening just yet. I pray she proves me wrong, but it's often extremely rare for someone who's as narcissistic as she appears to be to change. At least not truly, as they may appear to get better on the outside, but she'll be back at it again before long. Honestly, it's best we just not watch her content, as the best way to deal with a narcissist is to ignore them, and instead enjoy the work of those who truly deserve our time, energy, and most especially, our love and support. Anyway, that's gonna do for me here today, ladies and gentlemen. On the shades, and we'll see you next time. Rock on!